We are live. It's exactly 2 p.m. Central Time. This is probably the first time we've come live and direct exactly at the hour. And for everybody watching, the Footy Fantasy support. As you watch, I ask you to do one thing. Once you watch, click the subscribe button, like, share, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Takes you only 1 second. It's free, I realized that I was talking to some people the other time about subscribe. And someone asked me how much is the subscription fee. I said, "Oh, I think I missed a trick here. I need to be fair. It is free. You don't pay for anything. You subscribe for free. What you have any type of email. I don't think you need an email self, right? It's just to subscribe on YouTube. You don't need an email. Yeah.
No, you don't.
You don't need an email. Okay. I was arguing about that with someone. You don't need an email. Just click the subscribe button. It's free. Like, share, sub. We're happy Steven back first time this season. Arsenal, they have this pattern of when they're doing so well, all of a sudden their fans are like, you can find them, they're available. EJ, you try to get to come on.
Did you just shoot our producer on live?
Steve, it was nice to have you again.
Yeah, thanks for having me back, man. And I'm easy to find. I'm never hiding. You always find me during when it's bad. So you just haven't invited me back on for a while. That's it.
I know. I'm just taking shots. I always have to take shots. Idris, regular Chelsea. He just has been off for a couple of weeks, but yeah, he's back now. Top of the table, having a laugh. Is he having a laugh or just top of the table and uncomfortable? Which one is it?
No, we just say we're just there. We're just there. Top of the table. We're there. We're there for now. We're still rebuilding, We're still rebuilding.
Okay. Let's dive right in. I think the biggest clash was the Spurs United game for this week. It was dubbed the El-Sackico. In the Twitter have names for everything. And it's kind of looking like the El-Sackico because one club now looks like they're going to fire their manager. All the reports coming out. And this is Spurs. Spurs don't mess around, right? Levy doesn't mess around. I mean, this is not like United just messing around. So you want to fire, but we're giving Spurs. Once they want to fire, they'll just fire. So I think his time is probably up with Nuno Espirito. Talking about the game. I don't know if any of you saw the game, then I'll let the person dive in.
Yeah, no, I saw the game, and the thing for me with Spurs is like it's the same kind of situation. Like they hired Nuno, and everybody knows Nuno was like the 15th choice for the job. Like he wasn't a favorite for the job, and Spurs have this thing about how they play, right? So they have to play with a certain style, a certain flair. Like anybody with any common sense would say, you're describing that type of football. Nuno's not the guy that you hire.
Exactly.
So it's not a surprise to anyone that he's under pressure now, and especially when they didn't really invest in a way that would have helped him in that way either, right? Like he's still having to play Dyer and people like he's again the team isn't good enough, and he's a defensive coach anyway. So I'm not surprised by it. I'm enjoying it as an Arsenal fan. Like Spurs in trouble is always a good thing. So, but yeah, I mean, the game itself wasn't I don't know. I don't think United were that good. I just think Spurs are that bad, and just Nuno's he's out of his depth a little bit with the squad that he has.
Yeah. Okay. Idris, what are your thoughts?
I agree with Steven. I would say there are jobs in life you don't take. It's a lesson for most of us who are professionals, or if you're evolving in life, there's some things you just see and you're just like, maybe this is not for me, and just keep it moving. And I hate, and I know our boy, our Tottenham Hotspur, our brother in the house is going to come for me when I say this. The Spurs setup, to my opinion, is one of the worst ownership group you could work for, in my opinion. Name one manager that you think has gone to Spurs aside Pochettino in recent memory that has actually had, I don't even want to say success, but hasn't left without bad taste in their mouth. You know what I mean? Like, and this is us looking for.
He's still left with a bad taste in his mouth, right? He definitely bad taste in his mouth.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
No, but because again,
and he's still too.
Yeah, it's personality.
Go ahead, Steve. Yeah.
No, like you're saying, it's personality clashes, right?
Yeah, you're talking about Levy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And we're not talking about. I remember when I started watching. I mean, I won't say when I started watching Premiership because then ownership in the forefront in the media wasn't really a big thing. I would say it was after I cannot remember when was after a specific manager. Not oh God. There's a specific manager I had in mind that Levy was front and center of the whole thing. And I cannot remember in recent history in the last 18 years anyone going to Spurs who didn't leave fired, disappointed, or was promised something that in terms of resources that if they ever met, you know what I mean? And the stadium was something they used as a cover up for the longest time. Then they pushed out them one of the most successful managers ever, and then brought in a completely different manager with a completely different philosophy that the whole world could see. This is a bad relationship. We could totally see you going for a rebound, both of you. This is a bad relationship. This is a match made in hell. Still went through it, then went around looking for a new date and kept skipping all the potential quality dates. And we all knew Nuno was a reject. And this is the thing. He shouldn't have taken it. You know, I can't even blame Levy at this, but he shouldn't have taken it. And I cannot see I may be wrong, but I said something about Arsenal to one of my best friends who's an Arsenal fan 2 years ago. I said what you guys are suffering right now in Arsenal is almost half a decade of poor recruitment. It will take 2 more years, no matter the coach that comes into Arsenal, to just have the right balanced set of players for whatever philosophy or ideology they want to play, but just enough talent to compete. Tottenham are years behind. So I don't know who's going to come in and who's going to do anything. And let's be honest, look at the stats. It's not that horrible, man. The guy's in 9th also, 8th or 9th. So firing him right now makes no sense to me, in my opinion.
Okay. So I'll talk about Spurs before I go to dovetail to Manchester United. I think, like, I agree with everything you said. I thought Nuno was not a good fit for Spurs, especially when they're talking about the Spurs way. I don't know what that means. Good football. I think that was just, they were just
Since when?
They were selling dreams to Spurs fans. Let me, before I go further, Facebook user, leave us your name in the comments. If you are commenting on Facebook, it has a way of not showing your name. Say, what sports player do you think is the most talented, most wasted on that team? I feel for Son. He's so talented.
I can list like 4 or 5, sir. Højbjerg. We can go to Harry Kane, obviously, is the good. Son. Yeah. Even Dele Alli is not used properly in that squad. Correct. Like, was he Regulon? He was Regulon too. Like, you can list, man. Like,
the two for me would be Lo Celso and Ndombele.
That's true.
Again, another one I've completely
good creative players that they just don't use properly. So
correct, exactly. When I saw the starting lineup, I was like, when I saw in a game like this, you use Lo Celso when like United are going to be very deep and very physical, but we don't really have any creativity like in the middle. Like, this was a game for Ndombele, in my opinion. Should have started Ndombele. When I saw it, I was like, there's no way you're getting it out of this game. Yeah, because Pogba should have started Ndombele. He just started Ndombele. I was like, yeah, you're gonna get it today. So from a Spurs point of view, I think it wasn't a good signing as a coach. I saw what he did at Spurs, at Wolves. I thought for a while they did well, but whatever style he was doing was very, very predictable. And after that first season, everybody just figured them out very quickly, and he couldn't adapt. It was very clear, and you could see in their league position they kept regressing. I think they came 7th first season. They went 9th. Last season they came like 12th or 13th. They kept regressing, even though they were spending money. So I just knew like it wasn't going to do. Even when it was top of the table after first 3 games, and people were like, I had to consider a couple of like, no. Remember we did predictions now. Idris, you were on that episode when I said Spurs are not coming anywhere close to top 6. I said it there.
You called it. You called it. Yeah. I remember you calling it that time. I was like,
but the performances were obvious in the early part of the season. They won the first 3 games, and they were clinging on in games. Like the Man City game was the only one that was really a performance.
Yeah, That's true.
because it's Man City. But the other games, like, they didn't deserve to win those games.
They're just clinging on for their dear life. So yeah, I knew that straight away. But if they sack him now, it's like I think about it like, okay, you fire him now. Who are they thinking of bringing? Is it the same people that they could not bring in the summer?
Thank you.
What will change? Conte? You're going to promise Conte money or Fonseca? Like Conte's not
Conte,
going to
what?
He's not
Even
gonna
United, for United to swallow the Conte pill, they would have to call Alex Ferguson back before they would even try that. Like Conte, no.
So going to
And that's a club. Sorry, that I was saying that's a club that has resources for Conte.
Correct. Yeah.
You know, so before they even make that decision, you know, like talk more of Spurs. I mean, but again, Spurs gets himself into very toxic relationships. So who knows? Who knows what they're going to tell?
What they're going to promise him, right? Because that's the only way you're
Yeah.
getting him there. And remember, like, they got the director of football from Juventus there now, right? So again, they might be able to sing to him for a period of time, and then Levy being Levy, he's going to put his foot in it at some point, and we know what's going to happen. They're going to fall out. So like, Conte will get the United job in my mind at some stage, because I don't think there's any other managers out there that are going to want that job or be available for that job in the short term. So I think what will happen is Ole will get himself in trouble at some point over Christmas, probably. Conte will take the job. He'll go there for 2 years. He'll probably do really well at United for a year somewhere.
Yeah.
And then they'll fall out. So if United are smart, they set it up in such a way that they got a young coach or somebody there that when he does go, they've got a backup plan or someone else that already because he's not going to stay there long. So I think that's what they're looking to do, is like just bring in one of the young players. Yeah, just bring him in, let him do his thing with the squad you have. Because the problem for United is the longer they stick with Ole, by the time they make the change with the manager, they're going to have to go and spend another $500 million to fix the team, because Pogba will be gone. Like, you look at the players, Ronaldo's only going to be there for about another year. He's older now. Cavani's going to be, like, you go through the squad and you say, who's going to be there in two years or a year's time? They're going to start from scratch. So you're spending another $500 million on the team. Like, it doesn't make sense.
It doesn't. And yeah, I like, that's a perfect segue to United discussions, long term, short term. So long term, long term view about the team. I had this conversation so many times. I did like a kind of poll in my United groups, different chats on Twitter, and the overall consensus was this misconception about Conte. Like, we don't want Conte, is another Mourinho 2.0. No, absolutely not. I had to like start posting articles for people to like read about him. No, Conte is tactically they're very, very different from Jose. Very, very different. He seems presses high. And the only thing people want to go back and say, he falls out with management. It's because they don't give him what he wants. It's as simple as that. He tells you from the jump that this is what I want to do. If you do not give him, he will fall out with you. But this is the one guy, going back to the squad, that when you look at the squad, the profile of the squad, people forget, we have United have this like at the end of both spectrum squad now. People who are like beginning of their, the Sanchos, the Rashfords, about to hit their peak. At the beginning, the Greenwoods, the Wan-Bissakas, then we have the other spectrum of like people that like, it has to happen now. Pogba, Maguire, Varane, Ronaldo, Cavani. That is like the chunk. That's like the spine. Even Bruno is 26. About to be 27. It has to happen now. I mean next 2 years for him. It has to. So this idea that when people were saying, we need
you have the wrong manager.
He said, if you're a philosophical manager, I'm going to say next. I mean, that one is clear that we do. Anybody that's just at this point still arguing in favor of Solskjaer, I mean, I don't know what it is. I can't have a conversation in favor of Solskjaer. I just can't.
I tried to do so with you one time, and I realized like I was just no. I watched a few games. I was like, brother.
But it's not just Solskjaer. Like United. Go back 10, 15 years, right? United are one of the best run clubs in the country. They are no longer that. It's the same situation of what Arsenal and United, literally almost like they stepped into a machine and stayed there for 15 years while everybody around them was evolving.
That's true.
Like that's the difference. So United, how they recruit makes no sense. Like United, I look at United when they're buying players, and it's almost like, okay, who's the flavor of the month that everybody's saying should be signed, and the fans are telling us we should sign, and they go and they sign. Why would you pay that for this dude? It just doesn't make sense. But they have the money.
Sorry, Steve. Financially, I'll just interject and I'll let you go. You said they have the money. Like you said something that actually just blew my mind. Who is the flavor of the month that fans is asking us to sign? Glazers are like, oh, jersey sales.
Like that is what it is. And the reason I'm saying that is because I've seen it at Arsenal. Like Arsenal was the same. But the thing with Arsenal don't have the resources that United have. Otherwise, they'd have been doing the same thing for 5 years too.
Yeah.
So that's the thing for United that I just think if United were to just get a manager, someone like Conte goes into United, I think it actually fixes a lot of the problems that they have because his standards are such that he's going to hold the whole club accountable. That's why I would be afraid if he went there, even if it's for 2 years.
He'll be efficient. Conte will do more with this squad than Ole is. No freaking doubt.
No, but I don't think more about the squad. I think he would actually change the culture at the club.
He will.
Right? I think that's the thing with Conte. Like Conte fits in at these clubs because he changes the entire culture. And even if he goes there for 2 years, United top to bottom will change. Like they'll have to do things differently, transfers. He's going to manage the team differently. He's going to develop the young players because that's another thing that people don't give him enough credit for. Like he develops players.
He does.
So I would be afraid if he went there, to be honest. But United are just United and Arsenal is just the same situation. They stepped in a time machine and stayed still, and everybody just went right past them.
You're absolutely right. I mean, there's actually not more to add there. Long term, short term, the game, survival mode, right? When managers get to this point, they get to survival mode. Social is in survival mode. It's like, oh, I'm going to I'm just going to camp. I'll just go back to the thing he was doing when at this point, I'll say 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, 2019, when he was going to get sacked, he just started like, oh, I'm going to play 5 at the back, block out all the half spaces, and just camp in my box, right? So survival mode. And it clearly shows that thing wasn't a rumor, right? The 3 games, it wasn't a rumor. It was so clear. Because if it was, don't worry, we have faith in you. We trust your philosophy. That was considered as hard behind the scenes. He doesn't do what he did against Spurs. He went to full-on survival mode, meaning like 7 defenders at some point, 7-0-3, no midfield. Like pretty much Fred and McTominay were part of the defense. So it was like no space anywhere. Like the only way you're going to get into is either a quick ball over the top or you shoot from outside, pretty much. And Spurs don't have midfielders that do that, right? They don't shoot from outside. So it was very... I watched the game. I was like, this survival mode, it worked, for sure. Spurs are a bad team. Of course, you get some credit for changing into that, formation. But the reality is survival mode. Like, is he going to do this against City?
Against
Atlanta. So what do you do going forward?
No. But if he does this against City,
Sancho,
if they play that team against City, City will beat them like 4 or 5. Seriously, if they play that midfield against Manchester City, they will lose 4 or 5.
And the funny thing is, what's so funny about Manchester United, and like when I watch them and I watch the narrative, and I'm like, I always look like, just like what you say, right? People very, very easy use one game and project that one game into the future rather than seeing what the pattern has been for so long. And especially this season, for example. And then I look at, I'm just going to put many players behind the ball and counter. No new patterns of play. The pressing was pretty much half-ass pressing. It was better than, of course, Liverpool won, but it's because they're playing the worst team. A team that doesn't even press to do not play out of the back. So
I look at that United squad.
Just shaking my head. I was like, okay.
I look at that United squad and I look at the bench and I'm like, how can these men not get in the team? Like, I just don't understand his thinking. Like it doesn't make any sense, just the use of the players and the fact that he can't figure out a system for them. Because even when he goes to a back 3, and I'm like, okay, you're going to a back 3, mobility is an issue because you need your defenders to be able to cover space out wide, right? you're still playing Lindelof and Maguire with Varane in the middle. Like you do that against Man City, and them guys get pulled out wide, covering space. I'm like, at least play Wan-Bissaka as a right-sided centre back. He's better there anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
That's playing on the wing back.
yeah, it's just silly things that he does. I just don't
So
understand.
I was watching a pod, one of the United guys I follow, and he hit the nail on the head. Culture Cams, I think that's his name. He said when the manager gets in survival mode, the first thing they always do, we saw this under Jose, we see about different manager at different time, they go to their trusted players. And so Solskjaer just figured out, oh, let me put the people I trust the most and get all of them into the team. And that's literally what he did. Oh, Bruno, Ronaldo, and Cavani are experienced 30-something-year-old head, even though he told us for so many years, oh, my philosophy, fluid front three, young attacking players. It goes to Cavani and CR7. Okay, sure. Then Bruno is Bruno. Bruno just does whatever. He can create from nothing. I just put 7 defenders behind the ball. And that's when I was like, what was the point of this? Like, what you're trying to do is in survival mode. I'm just putting my trusted players there. So what now happens if you get over this hump? Are you going to start playing back 5? Are you going back to your back 4? Are you going to coach attacking patterns? Are you going to just think the way to do it is just have like better players? Are you going to try to hold on to January and get other DMs? Like, what is the plan here? it's for me, it's very frustrating with United now. Like, I've gone through like different phases of United. I'm now at that phase where I kind of was under Jose, but instead of my frustration to be angered towards Jose, because then I was so angry towards Jose, I kind of stopped watching the games. Where I am now is like the whole setup, because like any serious club, any sort of serious club, and I'm saying this for so many years, but in between the years, I've had to be quiet a little bit because I have a lot of United fans, like one of them who comments, who was telling me, "Are you relaxed? Maybe they're trying to make a change, they're trying to be positive." Any serious club would have been social now after that Liverpool performance and the way the team has played all the way from last season, from that Europa final loss. Chelsea would have been him from that Europa loss. Man City would have been him from that Europa loss. Liverpool would have been him by now. This current Liverpool, like they get a new manager after Klopp goes, and the Liverpool would have been him by now because they already know that these are the signs. Because there's a difference for a team to have an identity, and you know that they are trying to fix things, like how Liverpool were on that club, versus a team that you're watching and you're like, what's going on? And they hit a run, which is what's going to happen to United. Like, they stick to social. We're going to get some easy fixtures, right? When we go through Arsenal after the Arsenal game, I think we have a long stretch of easy fixtures. We have better players. So we're going to go on a run where we win most games, maybe draw here and they lose the awkward, the weird loss. But by that time, we'll not get to like maybe March, April, and we're talking of top 4. Okay, finish content. But that was not what this season was about. This season was about challenging for the title. So what are we really doing? Let's take a question from Linger, our scouts. I was reading an article about how United need to move past Ferguson and his influence. What do you all think? My quick opinion, and I'll let you guys share your opinion. My quick opinion is yes, Ferguson, not just Ferguson, the whole class of '92, like all of them. I don't need their opinion. I'm very, very okay with the management making their own mistakes, learning, following best in class solutions to running United. And they will make mistakes. Liverpool did before they finally got to where they are now with the right manager, the right setup, Michael Edwards, all of that. They made mistakes. They all did. But follow best in class. What we are doing right now is kind of what Liverpool were doing in the 90s, under when they had Roy Evans, and Steve knows this very well. I know you've been one of the old heads. Like under when they were doing all this Roy Evans and doing this nonsense of sentimentality, so yeah, I think so.
No, I think they have to move on, but I think you have to have the right people to move it forward, because the culture of these clubs, like most of these big clubs, like if you're really truly honest with yourself, like these big institutional clubs, they operate with some DNA
Correct.
of the club in some shape or form, whether it be Bayern Munich, whether it be Ajax, like the ones that have truly been around for eons, they all operate with some degree of DNA or history of the club, culture of the club in it. I think the problem with United, though, is Ferguson is the only person you look at the board level that you would say this guy is a football guy. Everybody else is, so you're basically depending on the most successful manager in the club's history, and he's there supporting the manager and he's giving you advice. It just doesn't work.
But advice was valuable 2013. Like even at 2013, clubs were he himself said in his book, clubs were moving past like ideas, footballing ideas that ended in 2013 is giving.
No, but the squad that Ferguson left is the downfall of United.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Like if there was a football culture at the club similar to what Chelsea is, Bayern Munich, etc., Fergie would have never retired and left the squad behind that he left behind. Like people forget the year he left, the very next season, Ferdinand was retiring, Scholes was retiring. Like it was the whole spine of the team was gone overnight, and then you bring in a manager into that situation with no support system. Like that was the problem. Like that was the downfall of United.
Yeah, I agree. That was the beginning. Idris, thoughts?
Yeah.
I see where Linger Queen Scouse is coming from. But I kind of have to agree with where Steven is. Like, careful what you wish for. like, careful what you wish for. Like, when you explained it, I was with you, but I was just like, I couldn't think of any other person. Okay, you moved from Fergie then to who? I couldn't think of anybody that you could just jump to. And I agree with Steven. Like when you look at Ajax, even AC Milan, the resurgency of AC Milan, it's the Maldini,
yes,
Lionel, and every other person. Yeah. Even the way Maldini went and hired, one of my academy kids tomorrow. He literally talks to the boys like, when you go back after this loan, literally say you don't want to be here. There was nothing Chelsea did not for this kid. He's like, I don't want to be here. Like he was like, I want to go back. Those things matter to an extent, right? As long as you're getting results. If we were to be honest, and everybody are complaining about the Fergie influence, up until firing, I believe, I won't say Mourinho, but before Mourinho, United, you guys have your culture where you still stick it out. Like you're like, let's give this guy a chance, and you are right. Coming second or top four is not what this season is supposed to be about. Yeah. I get it. But when you look at Solskjaer, and I know I shouldn't be saying this. I'm not saying he's a good coach. Before I get your anger. He's technically he's competed. However, it came second one time, then he ended up third, and you're like, this is the guy everybody wants to kill, and they probably believe he's honestly just throwing anything at the wall, waiting for what to stick. He might bumble his way to winning the league.
No, but the thing with Solskjaer as well, that people have to, the job that Solskjaer is doing, he served the purpose of what they brought him in to do.
Yeah,
so they brought him in to stabilize the squad, and then they had to transition a lot of players. They've done that now. They've integrated a lot of young players. But they're basically, it's decision making from this point. Like you can't alienate Pogba. You can't alienate Donny van de Beek. You can't, like, there's certain things that within that system, you're wondering who's making this decision and saying it's okay. Like you can't sign a guy for 70, 80 million and then not play him. Like it just doesn't make sense. So I just think there's a decision-making thing behind Solskjaer now that goes bigger than him. Like he was a transitional coach.
Yeah.
He's done his job.
But at the same time, you're talking about, you said something again. You're talking about an institution. Fergie probably, okay, and this is where I probably, again, my mind is going this way now. It's kind of like back to AY's part where Fergie found himself in this situation about he went 5 years, 7 years before he won anything, and they stuck it out with him. His neck was on the line. And once he got the entire piece together, financially, the players, the rest is history.
But
right?
Again, it wasn't just
sorry?
It wasn't just Fergie though. That's the thing that people seem to miss. Like the academy, he helped develop the academy, but then the academy started to produce players.
Correct.
He then had Michael Edwards, other people that were doing contract signing support. It wasn't just Fergie. There was a football ecosystem that he had the vision for it. Let's not get it twisted. He had the vision for it, but the club was in full support of that vision. And then it started to produce bit by bit. So the first bit was the academy. It's like, oh, look at these 5-6 players all coming through at the same time.
Yep.
That's a stroke.
I agree with you, but it took them a long time to produce. So Ole's only been there for what, 3 years?
Mhm.
But
the
difference is that situation with Ferguson had to develop United into that. So they didn't have the resources that they have now. When you're spending $500 million on a playing squad in 5 years and you're in the same place you were 5 years ago, it doesn't make sense. That's why Chelsea can afford to be brutal. Because if I'm giving you 200 million a window, I'm expecting you to deal with things. Like you don't have an excuse. Like, yes, you're developing a squad, you're developing a playing style. I want to see kids coming through the academy. Chelsea asked for all of those things, you know. But the one thing Chelsea don't compromise on, if you're not getting results, I don't care about any of the other stuff.
Yeah, correct.
That's United.
Yeah.
You're right. You're right.
Just wrap up the United section. So Zaza says, United fans, you have to say United have not. You say United have not moved on from Fergie has some issue in it. Busby stuck around United long after coaching the club. Yeah. I mean, that's fair. But I guess it's the role, like Steve has said, it's the role and the people behind it. The example from AC Milan was a great one. You know, people Maldini had to go learn the ropes, you know.
But remember before Fergie as well that Charlton was doing that job, right?
Correct.
So people, they had Bobby Charlton in the background. So there's always that Ferguson isn't the problem.
No.
The problem is the structure, the infrastructure of the club is no longer working for the manager.
It's outdated, as you said. Yeah. But then again, you also said something very key. They need to add somebody, either I don't want to say an opposing voice, but a different voice to Fergie. But I still think Fergie represents, because if he buys in, the investors buy in, and whoever is going to benefit down the line, it helps.
They need a visionary.
Yeah, because the situation, in all fairness, man, the situation, United does not want to get into a situation where PSG is right now, where Chelsea was. Trust me. At one point in time, even we had fired so many coaches that the only coaches in the market were the coaches we had fired. like, you know, it's a shitty place to be in till you realize, you're not that guy that can't pick any date in the club because you've been there. You know, you're just like, I got to go to a different city. You know what I mean? So I don't think, I really hope, I could really care less because it's United if you like knock yourself out. But at the same time, I would say from a footballing lover standpoint, we said this about Arsenal. When Wenger left, and the way he left, there was a massive hole. And Arsenal are still reeling from that. And it's funny, the second year he left, a friend of mine, one of my best friends in Calgary, we had actually visited London, and we'd gone a stadium tour of both Stamford Bridge and the new Arsenal Emirates Stadium, right? And funny enough, it wasn't like a full tour. We just happened to be like there, and the guy's like, "Well, I'll take you guys up the whole floor, the stands and stuff." And he and she were breaking down like, "Oh, just so you know, the week before Wenger actually retired, there were like meetings, back-to-back meetings on this floor, and it was not pretty, and things were being said." And I was like, you know, when you're like looking around and someone is actually telling you as a stewardess what they were hearing and seeing. Somehow they did. I don't think, we always thought like Wenger just did not want to be a technical director or didn't want to be part of the fabric. He just wanted to coach, and it was either that or he left. From what I heard on that tour, it looked like there was a lot of friction. And even if his staying around became untenable, you understand what I'm trying to say? Like, they should have figured out a way to keep him there while they go through these other things, right? But for some bizarre reason, the company man was no more, good for business, and that left a massive hole.
No, but Wenger created that situation himself. Like, I and I have had this conversation.
That's another thing, yeah.
Like, they tried to bring in a director of football. They tried to bring in new coaches into the system, right? They were trying to upgrade. Wenger was just fiercely loyal to his people, his way of doing things. So there was never going to be a director of football when he was there. They had coaches that had to retire.
Why couldn't he become?
But he, again, tried. Like he wasn't gonna give up his seat. Like he always felt that he could get the next result. Like the next year was always gonna be better, right? Like he was always felt that he was closer, or he was gonna be able to do it again. Like he always had faith in himself that it was gonna turn around. So he wasn't gonna give up the seat, and they weren't willing or strong enough to say, you know what, this ain't gonna work out. We're making a decision for you.
Correct.
In the end, they had to make the decision for him. He didn't retire. He was told, leave at the end of the season or we're going to fire you. That is what happened with Wenger.
It was too much loyalty was his problem. And I think it's a great segue into Arsenal conversation. I'll pretty much pass it back to Steven. Because I remember last season through, and there's a reason why I actually brought Steven here. Like last season through when everything was burning to the ground, almost all Arsenal fans I talked to, and I'm saying 98% Arsenal fans, before they turned around towards the end, of at least my own community of Arsenal fans, wanted Arteta out, wanted everything. And Steven said something to me there that kind of stuck with me about, like, what's the point? Like, if they fire Arteta now, like, what's the point? You bring in another manager, like, the core problem has nothing to do with the manager right now. You know, and you kind of talked about Idris, is like, they have to revamp the squad. They have to be a clear strategy. They have to, like years of bad recruitment of different managers. They have to first go to that, and they need a guy who is somebody who's going to be able to stick through that. Like a manager with, like, let's say Conte, a manager with reputation and gravitas would not want to stick through that because of his reputation, right? His reputation will be in the mud. So instead, what's going to happen is that he fights with the player, or he fights with the board, and will get fired. So it only makes sense to stick with Arteta. When he told me this thing there, I was like, wow, that's actually a great point. And I'll say 9 months now down the line now, it's looking like what he said, because he did say, like, next season will be when he will really have to judge regarding, you know, integrating the system, what they're trying to do, because the job he's doing last season is just to clear out the people, you know, who didn't work out. And of course, he mentioned also, I remember that I made some bad decisions, and he's like William was a bad decision, like those kind of decisions. But the key part is the
Agent William.
Agent William. So yeah, I'll take it to you. What my first question is, like, do you think Arteta has turned it around?
Yeah, it's not about Arteta as an individual. I think the club has put in a structure, and they've got basically rookies or people with ambition and vision, and they get the culture of the club in all of the positions. They're all rookies together, right? So the chief exec is new at his job. Mertesacker new at his job. Edu's new at his job. Arteta's new at his job, right? So we have all of these people, but the difference is they all have some connection, with the exception of the chief exec, to the club and the game. So they can learn and develop and improve together, and that's what you're seeing, right? They've all made mistakes. Like the Willian signing was a mistake. Check. The way they handled the Ozil situation, bad decision again, just badly handled, right? Yeah. Check. So they're all learning from these situations, and you can see that they're back in their conviction, because this transfer window, if you remember, we had that conversation. I was looking at the players and I was like, yo, it's either going to go really well or this is going to end really badly, because they're leading with their chest, right? This is the guy we want. We don't care what the fans think. We don't care what the pundits think. This is the guy we want. And to Arteta's credit, to Edu's credit, because people are remember that interview Edu did, and everybody lost their minds about the interview that he did when he said, hey, let's see when the players come together and what happens, and let's not look at the table, let's just get the team out on the pitch together. They did all those conversations and people lost their minds, right?
Yep.
So I just think it's a transition. I don't think it's decided yet if Arteta is the right man for the job long term. Yeah. But I think he's doing what he was brought in to do. Like, he's bringing in a culture again. They're bringing through some young players. They're investing in building the team back up as a foundation. He might not be the guy that benefits, but he's doing the job we want him to do. Like, he's rebuilding the foundations of the club, right? So that's the thing for me, is I don't know if it's a rebirth. I just think the foundations of Arsenal as a football club are being rebuilt. That's what we're seeing.
Okay. And that's kind of very poignant, or very, when you think about the fact that Arsenal has gone through that. Because remember the earlier period of, what's that guy that fell out that they got from Dortmund? What was his name again?
Mislintat.
Mislintat. After the Mislintat thing, Mr. left, and we went to Saheli. Saheli left.
But that's what I'm saying. Like we went to the formula of we just gonna go and get the best, most high profile personality in the job role.
Correct.
To the club, and that's what I'm saying. There's a change of mindset or vision for the club.
Yep.
Arteta might not be an Arsenal legend, but he's got a connection to the club. Edu has a connection to the club. Mertesacker has a connection to the club. These are the guys they gave the jobs. Whereas the first time round is like, oh, suddenly his CV is amazing. Let's go get that guy. Like you go for the most high profile available person that wants to come and work for you, and they don't understand the culture, the club, the foundation, and you're kind of losing yourself as you're kind of getting this expertise in. I don't think Mislintat was a bad hire.
Yeah.
I just don't think he was working out in the culture of the club that we had at the time.
Okay. So I guess what you're saying is Arsenal is kind of doing what I guess Solskjaer was doing in a way.
Yeah. But with the support system, they changed everything.
Yeah.
Right? Like Mertesacker is doing an amazing job with the academy. Like people aren't even watching. They said, oh, we fired or got rid of all of those scouts and we went out and hired a load of new guys again. We did the same, that we're basically rebuilding the foundations of the club. Like it's not friends and hangers on and people that were working for Wenger for 15 years. Like getting rid of Steve Bold, that's a move. Like Mertesacker went in and said, yo, you're a legend at the club, but this ain't working out. Like we can't have some of the best kids in the country playing in our academy and be almost getting relegated out of under 23. Like it can't happen. Fire him. Like you can't. Them is big moves. Like that wouldn't have happened 2 years ago. Like we'd have just kept Steve Bold, given him another round of players, and said, "Here you go." I just think the culture is changing, and that's the bigger issue. And then the results have to follow that because the fans don't care about the academy coaches or the scouting. They don't care. But all of those things are happening in the background, and that's the thing that's impressing me more. Like the results are coming as a result of the fact that they're doing the things off the pitch in a more consistent and supported way.
I think that's a great point. So when you look at this Arsenal team now, based on the squad there, playing once a week, I don't know if that helps fully. People bring it up every time.
It helps with the young players.
Oh yeah,
it helps with the young players because you can coach them. Like you can spend the time on the coaching ground with the young players, and they're not, because again, we've had so many young players at Arsenal that we've burnt out because they play 3-4 games a week. They can't cope. Like Saka would have been playing for England 2-3 games a week, Champions League. He would have probably had an injury by now. Smith Rowe would have probably had an injury, a serious injury by now. Like that was just what was happening at Arsenal. So with this young team, it actually works in the reverse. Like you're now getting these guys, you're coaching them, and they're now just playing the 1 or 2 games a week. There's less physical pressure on them as they're developing. So again, you want to be in Europe, no doubt. But I just think in terms of the stage of development that these players are at, it actually works in your favor. It should work in your favor.
Who has impressed you the most out of the new signing?
The one that's like doing a madness right now is Ramsdale, but I think for him, the reason I pick him out isn't necessarily because he's playing out of his skin. It's more a case of the pressure, because it takes a very strong personality to come into a club. Everybody goes, "What are you doing? This guy's rubbish. He's been relegated twice. We don't want him."
I remember the narrative.
And he gets into the team, and he's literally shoving everything down everybody's throat every week. Like that's a personality, and that's more what's impressive about him is that he's actually a massive personality, and I think Arsenal have needed that in the defense specifically for a while. So him with Gabriel, like he's just that presence he has. So he's been the one that I think is probably making the most noise. But in terms of just fit, Tomiyasu as well, like that brother there, like that's our Wan-Bissaka. Like you don't go past him.
Exactly, I was gonna say that. That's the proper old school. Yeah, Idris, on mute. Proper old school. Tomiyasu is proper old school throwback. Like I said, you're literally.
I was saying the same thing.
I think it's better in the air than Wan-Bissaka.
Yeah,
he's better in his air duels than Wan-Bissaka.
Like I watched. So my apologies. I watched him like totally like last game, and I'm like, actually, this guy is good. Like I actually admired what I was seeing. I'm like, okay. He wasn't complicating things. He wasn't overdoing stuff. he tracked his players. He stayed in right positions. He wasn't overextending himself. When he goes forward, he makes the right decisions. Then immediately he goes back. So I need to tell Luke Shaw to watch Tomiyasu, man. Because watching him and Maguire.
But I think it's the balance of the team. Like if you look at how they've recruited to that point, they wanted a guy that could play in that hybrid system that's going to tuck in, right? So you think about it. When we are not in possession, Arsenal play with a back three. So when they're not in possession, it's basically Tomiyasu, Gabriel, and White. White can progress because he can run with the ball, and then they just sit. So Tomiyasu isn't supposed to be flying up the wing.
Yeah.
On the other side, you literally got Tierney and Tavares, who are both units and machines. Like they just go one way, and when they get moving, they get moving. So the system and how they've recruited is a type. So they've got two left backs that are basically prototypes of each other. And then on the right side, you now got this hybrid center back because remember, it's Tomiyasu and Chambers, right? Who can both do that job. So he's built his team and his personnel based on how he wants to play, which is why I'm saying about with United and the recruitment comparison between the two. Because again, people forget Gabriel is a quality signing they made there.
Yes, yeah. That was like, previous signing.
It's quality signing. That's working out. Right, Tierney. You go through the recruitment the last 2.5, 3 years.
I'll say the last.
No, the 2.5. But the 2.5.
That's 4-5 windows.
No. Because they didn't recruit anyone for two. Two of those, the first 2 windows Arteta had, they didn't buy anyone.
True.
They didn't buy anyone because they had so many players on the books that they couldn't move. He literally, people forget, he had 2 windows where the only thing he could do was just let people go for free. Socrates, rip up your contract. Ozil, rip out your contract. They gave away players because they couldn't get rid of them.
Right. It's pretty much like optimal, recruiting to a plan. I know I say this, I hammer on this every time. That's what, apart from the manager, of course, that Liverpool have, that's the one thing that they did with the manager that got them to the point where they recruited to a plan, to a team. And that's what and I'm going to be honest, I think beginning of the season, maybe after 3 games, I had Deji on Ayo, the Arsenal fan. And one thing I did see, and to be fair, he corrected me straight away. I was like, I'm not clear on Arsenal signings. I hold my hands up. I think I was very wrong about that. And I think I said in the group chat that we have, Idris, I think I was very wrong about Arsenal signing. I said I wasn't sure about their signings. Like, those are the plan. But I think the one thing I honestly forgot was when I watched them play, I forgot about the fact that they had so many first team players out. Gabriel was out. Partey was out. Like guys, Tomiyasu hadn't played.
White was out. Lacazette was out.
Obama kind of team was out.
The first 3 games
based on that, I'm projected to the future. The thing I always complain that people do, that's what I did.
But bro,
I'm projected to the future.
You are human. You're human because you also had Ole PTSD because we didn't understand what Arteta was trying to do initially. We just thought, okay, it's going to be Pep light. And he tried it.
Even as an Arsenal fan, though, those first few games, there were issues, and it was on him. Yeah. Because you can't write games off because your recruitment isn't landed. That's on the team, right? So at the start of the season, the biggest issue all Arsenal fans had with the club, we weren't ready, right? Like, the players you want. Stop haggling and trying to figure out this player, that player. Go and get the guys in the door so that we're ready for the start of the season. Then, if you get the COVID situation that happened and whatever, okay, that's a circumstance.
I would say something regarding. You know what? You're right because we made fun of you guys. We'd be like Arsenal credit card be declining and shit. We had all that. We had all those jokes. But there was an interview the owner's kid had, Kroenke's son had. And he was I never seen them that active. I think they really felt the heat you guys brought to them, man. Like in the States. They were like, they're going to see what we're going to do this season. We're going to recruit players. It was like, I remember reading that op-ed and I was laughing, but it was kind of interesting. He was very like, people can say whatever they want, but we are doing something and we have a plan.
Yeah,
and it might not look like anything right now, but we had a plan. So I heard and you're right, Tomiyasu.
But again, it's like, you need people that have vision, and then you gotta support it. And again, I'm not saying that in the long run, I feel that all of these people that are at the club now are probably going to be the ones that take us to challenging for titles and all of that stuff. What I'm saying is the foundations of the club needed to be rebuilt post Arsene Wenger. They've made investments that us as fans don't know or care about. Like the academy, we don't know or care about it, but they're doing a lot of things.
Bruh, don't say you. Yo, Chelsea and Menelaw. I mean, I've gone on tangents with AY about that. When Menelaw said, and you know why we had the best academy for a long time? It was honestly, we built the academy to balance the books. We actually had no plan of passing the kids through the pipeline.
Yeah.
We had no plan of passing them through the pipeline. The idea of the academy was to balance the books.
And it still is. It still is at Chelsea. So
at Chelsea.
But again, if you find a gem in between, great. You find Reece James.
But here's the thing. Condition made us promote 7 players. Right? That transfer ban was a blessing.
Yeah. But I think some of these players would have made it anyway. That's the thing I'm saying. Like, I think Chelsea knew they had a generation of player that was coming through. And again, you're not going to, it's a situational thing. Like, it's going to probably be another 4, 5, 6 years before Chelsea sees anything like that happen again, where you get Reece James, Mason Mount, all of those guys coming through at the same time.
Actually, I could push back a bit for one reason. I want to make this point actually. Not until Ruben Loftus-Cheek, John Terry was the last successful person from the academy. Like, he was literally last.
But let me ask you a question, right? So he was the last, but when was the last player that left the Chelsea academy that turned up, that Chelsea actually turned around and said, hey, we made a mistake? And I'm talking from the academy. I'm not talking young player that you bought.
Like De Bruyne and
like
none.
That's the point.
No, and I agree with you, because even Mourinho had said those Chelsea boys, when Mourinho was there, who actually said he didn't care about these boys, and Menelaw, to fight his way to get that whole thing built, have those boys come through, had to do numbers, and Abramovich was like, oh, we can actually, and I'm paraphrasing here, we can circumvent fair play using this, and we went that route, right? And then the conditions were ripe enough to have a Tammy Abraham, Ruben. But remember, Sarri was there when we promoted. Actually, no, before Sarri, Ruben Loftus-Cheek had come in. Then he had his injury stuff, and he just died off, right? And Hudson-Odoi had come in under Sarri, and he was just not going to be used. He was just beat pat, and everybody was getting frustrated. Like, we have these boys, let them come in, right? I believe certain things happened for us to have all these boys come in, and they did literally good enough. We just needed time. And I also think what you said about Ole being a stopgap coach is very true. Because now I'm thinking about it, Lampard was a stopgap coach.
Yeah.
He came in, we thanked him for what he did. And AY can attest to this. I predicted he would get fired in the second year. And everybody was like, oh, I'm just saying that to cop out. I was like, I don't see him. I don't see the kind of leeway United and Arsenal give managers that he would get, because they backed him after the transfer ban was over. They backed him, and then the wheels fell off. So it sucked. But yeah, you're right. I agree with both of you, by the way. Like, when I actually think about it as we're going, you're like, yeah, man. Like,
because even at Arsenal, right? You look at, again, I'm talking about the academy, and you think about, people forget Arsenal are bad in the transfer window. They do bad business. Blah blah blah. You selling a Wolby for 40 million. You're doing right. You still saw Walcott for 20. You're still good. Like, they're still moving players. They're gonna get 15 for Maitland-Niles. They're gonna get 10 for Chambers. They're gonna get 10, 12, 15 for Holding. They're gonna get decent money and make profits on these players. So they're now following the same system. And then in behind that, people are talking about Saka and Smith Rowe. Okay, Aziz, he might not make it at Arsenal. They're gonna make a change off of him when he leaves. Like, they've got about 5 or 6 players there that they have some value at some stage to somebody else, right? So now it's a case of using the loan system which is basically the next thing that Mertesacker's invested in. Like they got 7-8 players on loan right now.
I got you guys all. So all this noise people are making about Chelsea right now. You're
100%.
Everybody's doing it.
You can't beat
doing it now. Everybody's doing United is doing now. So
you can't beat them. Join them. Facts.
Who's United's director of football now? John Mortar. That's what he was doing in the academy. He was the one that started playing like 2 years ago. Brought in Mabry and Hannibal. Some young, same thing Chelsea's doing. That's what we're doing.
You watch what happens in January. In January, they probably sell Balogun and maybe Martinelli on loan. And if one of them go anywhere and do anything, the same thing's happening right now. You say, okay, Saliba, right? I would have preferred them keep Saliba and play Saliba. Saliba's on loan at Marseille. He's having a really good season. If he keeps doing what he's doing, he's going to cut someone who paid 30 million for him.
Yeah. Or he comes back. It depends on how the market.
No, but the thing is, he comes back and then you sell Holding, right? And you sell Mari, and you basically have 2 players on loan right now that people aren't even talking about. We got Ballard, who's playing for Millwall, who everybody loves and is doing a really good job, and you got Saliba. So we've already got the 2 centre backs that will upgrade in the squad to come in potentially, and they're both playing. One's in the Championship and one's playing in League One. So again, we're not buying centre backs in the summer. We don't need to buy centre backs in the summer. If those 2 come back, you sell Chambers, you sell Holding, you bank the money, and you put the money in midfield, you put the money up front. So I think that there's a plan. It's just they have to get results. And if they keep getting results and the performances slowly but surely improve, they'll get the time to the point you were making, Ayo, about the 5 years with Fergie. You get the time, but you have to progress.
Yeah.
Like you're putting all this infrastructure in place. No one gives you credit for the infrastructure. They give you credit for the result.
It's very modern day football, right? You don't have a chance. I think that was a good segue to Chelsea. Chelsea is just advantage in the title race. I mean, both of your challengers drop points. Liverpool drew, Man City lost, Chelsea won again. Is this sustainable? Let me just ask a very basic question.
Yeah,
it is sustainable over there. This Chelsea, and I asked this question because of 2 things. First, over. When you guys get into like, I guess, December, January, playing every 3 days, having to rotate the squad, the squad becomes bigger. Now I think it's kind of thinner because of injuries to Lukaku and Werner. That's the first thing. Second thing, and most important thing I want to say is most of your goals, just like last season, coming again from the wing backs, the defenders, central midfielders. Is this sustainable?
I was hoping you would not notice that, but go ahead.
Is this sustainable to the end of season?
It's not sustainable. I'm going to start with that one. It's not sustainable. I can assure you right now, almost all Chelsea fans are panicking. They're just not showing it. We're going to troll. We're going to get all the attention out of the way. It's crazy. I think Reece James, was it Reece James or who was the scored last game?
He scored.
No. There was before the game last game. That person was number 15th, the 15th different goal scorer of Chelsea this season.
But there's nothing wrong with it.
But there's a problem. There's a problem.
Let me ask you a question, Eddie. So if you look at the squads, who has a better squad than Chelsea in the Premiership right now?
I would say probably City right now as it looks.
He has a better squad, balance-wise. If City lose Cancelo, I don't think there's an upgrade. If City lose, if they lose De Bruyne, I don't think there's an upgrade. They have depth. They got quality players, but Chelsea have a balance. Like it's Alonso, it's Chilwell, it's Reece.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna push back a bit. I'm gonna push back a bit on this, right? If City loses Cancelo, obviously the next one coming in, there's a massive drop off in terms of like level of talent, right? But they have a system, and I think that is what United will pay for today. System.
But Chelsea have a system too, and that's Chelsea have a system, and the difference between Tuchel and I think the other Chelsea managers is like Tuchel doesn't care what your name is. Yeah, like you do. Like the fact that he's getting a tune out of Chalobah, the fact that he's getting right, like he doesn't care what your name is, and he showed that last season. Like he put Christensen in the team, like he doesn't care. So if you look at the squad Chelsea have, these guys might be third, fourth, fifth choice players, but at a push, if he needs to tweak something, he will throw on a Loftus Cheek. He will throw on a Chalobah. And they're not bad players. You get what I'm saying?
No,
Like that.
and that's the thing. That's the thing. Hence, when the Chelsea thing anyway is kind of like tied to a lot of variables that is really working in our favor. Most of us reeled when Tomori left because Chalobah wasn't the next incline. Chalobah is supposed to go on loan this season. We were not supposed to buy Malang Sarr.
Chalobah's been on loan for like 5 years, man.
All of them have been on loan for 5 years. All of them. It's a Chelsea thing.
They're grown up players. They're not average guys. It's just a case of, am I going to get a chance in the Chelsea squad or not? Because there's levels to this.
There's levels to this, yeah.
Like Chalobah, if he wasn't at Chelsea as a player on their books, he'd probably be playing in a mid-table team somewhere in the Prem or top of the Championship team.
Exactly. I agree with you. But then he needs to keep playing to evolve. This Chalobah that we're seeing now, it's almost like the decision to keep him in the squad was the last game he played, friendly game he played. And the manager was like, yeah, looks like we're going to have to keep this kid. Like, because Zuma was already identified as the person that has to go, whether for reasons on the books. Because a lot of Chelsea fans are really confused about, like, he's leaving, actually. But for reasons on the books, he had to go.
It's two things.
Now we have...
It's homegrown and the books.
Yes, homegrown and the books. Oh, yes, homegrown and the books. And then Chalobah stepped up. And a lot of Chelsea fans were saying, as you said, we're not going to have this generation of players again. We just come in and we're just freaking ready. There's a weird thing about that Mason Mount, Tammy Abraham, and Hudson-Odoi. Hudson-Odoi is actually the youngest. He just happened to just come across than every other person. Now, that exists. But at the same time, the system also covers a lot of stuff, right? Pep Guardiola dissected Chelsea in a way where I didn't really realize was what we were doing. The space between Jorginho and the three backs and Kovacic is almost like non-existent, right? And you could press and they find a way to choke you that there's no space. And once they get the ball, they just open up and everybody's going. And then when you have a person like Thiago Silva, which to me is the greatest defender probably in his generation, like there's a level. I'm watching this guy from AC Milan. I just did not know he was this good. I just didn't know he was this good. And there's something he has even improved Rudiger on, right? Rudiger used to be just a tout. Now Rudiger is a fine tout. Like we're talking about a guy that's got swag to his toutism, right? Like it's even when he does it now, we clap at Chelsea. Oh, like swag. Like we know he's beating you. We know what he's doing, but he does it with finesse now. He's diagonal passes and stuff. And there was just something about just being able to have him robbing off Christensen, robbing off Chalobah. It's very unique because those two guys are not in the team.
Yep.
God, the drop off is massive because you could totally see what was it Southampton?
Brentford.
Sorry, thank you, Brentford. You could see the massive drop off, and those kids were really trying. We're talking about like Sarr, They really gave their all, and they literally almost died in that game. If not, like Mendy was out of this world. You understand? So when we look at that kind of drop off too, I'm worried. You mentioned Cancelo. I'm looking like Chelsea's not too far fetched. Alonso is the most amazing wing back going forward. The brother is still a liability at the back, bro. We are not getting it twisted with Alonso.
And but what I'm saying is, it's like you go through the names. You just named 5 players there for the 3 centre-back position. You didn't even mention Azpilicueta. Yeah. You didn't mention Reece. So what I'm saying is Chelsea have options that can cover most sins. The only thing stopping Chelsea is if they have like a mad injury crisis in a very specific position.
But we already having that. The mad injury crisis is up front.
Yeah,
everybody knows my recorded issues with Timo Werner, and I will not bash the poor guy again.
No. But remember, this is Chelsea. If Chelsea get to January, right, and they're anywhere near it, and they need another striker, Chelsea will go
buy Haaland.
They'll go and buy a striker. It's not even a question.
Yeah, that's
fair
true.
enough.
That's
like it's a deep. But I would say to answer the question about the forwards, we actually have a problem because if you remember last season, AY documented this when I was like, I am really torn. Maybe because also I would say I played amateurish a bit, but like it's like the style of strikers. I used to hate strikers that just sit in front and not do anything, but they score goals. They know where the back of the net is. They know what to do. Then you have strikers that huff and puff, huff and puff. They're part of the game. You know, we've had a lot of huffing and puffing strikers, and we've not had goal results. You know, finishes. Yeah. When we had finishes in the history of Chelsea, we've always had assist guards. Hazard, Zola was for Jimmy Floyd, Hasselbank. I would say Cesc Fabregas came in a unique time. Joe Cole existed for Didier Drogba for a certain point in time, and they had Damien Duff, Arjen Robben. Then you had people like Hazard coming in, Cesc Fabregas and Hazard. They would offer the goal to you on a plate. You know, we have a situation where even the ball going forward is a problem. Lukaku bangs goals, but we could not count the amount of through passes to Lukaku in our teams. Something is wrong. All our creative players are on the wings. We can vividly see it. So even Tuchel is working so hard right now to force the inverted winger type of play, and Ziyech isn't doing it. The only kid right now that seems that like he's gotten a couple of games under his belt and he's off running is Hudson-Odoi. You look like he might be able to do it. And then the rebirth of Ruben Loftus-Cheek. Madness. Did not see that coming. To the point where we're like, oh my God, we don't need Saul. To me, is a waste of time. You need to get a good. We're not paying for that loan. We're just using him right now because we paid for him. Like, come do 5-10 minutes here. He doesn't fit, in my opinion. And the only reason is the likes of Ruben.
Hearing the names, he's just throwing out. Like Saul, like look at the players that you're throwing out, and you say, oh, okay, we got one position where we might have an issue. There's no team in the Premiership that's got that. Again, Pulisic, where is he?
He's Glassman Pulisic. He's always on the operating bed.
You look at the squad and you're like, well, hold on a minute. Like,
fair enough.
There's enough firepower options there that against 80-90% of the league, most weekends, Chelsea will figure it out. If they're playing in big matches, so the matches against Liverpool and the matches against Man City, because those are the head-to-heads that pretty much, I think, decide the league.
Yeah.
That's where Chelsea can't afford to be short of a player or two. But otherwise, like, I just don't see how you stop the squad.
I will still say, not to act like we might not be, and I'm not going to use the word. I'm just going to say that. Nah, we're not favorites. I'm not going to use the word. I would say we do have a creative problem in Chelsea. I'm not going to lie. The reason I've talked about like style of strikers going forward is whether we needed a finisher or we needed a point man or we needed a tackle that runs into the channels. There's a bizarre situation with Timo Werner. I'm never going to understand it. But with Lukaku, we could clearly see that our strikers are being stifled. There's no quality passes and stuff like that. So I really don't know how we would solve that problem because Tuchel is really, really, really trying because we've been playing two men up front, you know. And I personally have watched games. I don't know where it's going to go because I don't think we have those players that would actually do it. I'm throwing out players here, Jorginho, Kovacic. Ruben is the only player that seems a little more direct.
I just think what he needs to do is if he's going to play, like, rather than playing the 3-4-3, he almost needs to play more of the 3-5 and then put a player behind the two. And the player to go behind the two is probably Havertz or Mount. And he's got to figure that out. And I think if he does that, eventually, lo and behold...
We actually have tried that. We've tried that with Mount. And,
is that what it was in Champions League? Mount?
Yes.
Two of them. Yeah, I remember.
Yes, sir. We actually tried that with...
And it looked so good in Champions League.
It will work. Eventually, it will work. But the problem is, like you say, right now, you got no Werner, you got no Lukaku, so there's no point playing that system. You're better off taking people out wide and then creating chances, and you're still scoring the goals. So if he goes to that system...
From the back, though.
But because of the personnel you have right now, like if he had those two up front with a Mount behind... Or with a Havertz behind, or Havertz playing as a false nine with one, like there's options to just get you to the point. If you get to January and there's still a striker issue or a creativity issue, Chelsea will sell two players and they'll go again.
That's
what they'll do.
Organizations win championship. So yeah, okay. Let me ask a quick question before we go to weekly awards. our donkey and kudos of the week. Steve, where do you think Arsenal finish this season?
Top 6.
Oh, okay, top 6. Because I have an Arsenal friend
Balls.
who told me that Arsenal.
I'm like writing that down.
Arsenal
I'm like
finished above Manchester
2:10
United.
Central Time.
No.
Steven said top
Top
6.
6. I think we'll get top 6. I think the team is young and developing, and I think they got, again, with no European football, no distractions. I think they got in a really good draw in the League Cup that no one's talking about as well. So they got a chance to get to the semi-final of that. So I think top 6 is there for them. I don't think there's, again, the teams that finish above them, like, I don't necessarily think United might be in the top 4. It might be somebody else in the top 4. But
I think United will be in the top 4.
I think over the course of the season, if they stick with Ole for the whole season, I think United gets out.
Nah, because Ole, when AY said Ole just gets those stupid runs, and he milks that crap, and somehow people will drop points down the line, injury stuff, and that's the differential will happen. I believe the last 6 games of the season, he will end up in top 4.
I think those teams in the middle of the table are a different kettle of fish this year.
I agree.
I just think you're going to turn up at Leicester, you're going to get beaten. You're going to turn up at West Ham, you're going to get beaten. You can turn up at Arsenal and wrong day, you get beaten. I just think those teams in the middle, they're not good enough to be consistent enough to get the top 4. Yeah. But they're good enough
to stop your ambitions.
To stop your doing what you need to be doing.
I said they will stop your ambitions.
It's true. And this is beginning of season, I kept saying that, right? We'll still make top 4.
Like, what's the this weekend?
The last few weeks, I'm like, I'm not sure.
Crystal Palace, though. Anyway,
but look at them. Like, there's a group of teams in the middle of the table. You catch them on the wrong day, they will turn you over. And I just think the difference is I don't see that happening often to Liverpool, Chelsea, and City if they have their squads available.
Yeah,
I think they'll find a way to get a result. They'll draw, they'll win. Like, they'll find a way to get enough results that they're not going to be in question. I think the teams below that, I don't see United going away from home every weekend and finding a result every weekend. I think they'll lose a couple.
Yeah, to be fair, I agree. Now, I kind of agree. And this is why I agree. I agree because I've been looking at it. I started thinking about the past 1 week. I keep saying, we'll make top 4. Now I'm thinking about it like, if we stick with Solskjaer to the end of season, bro, this thing, like a lot of people have figured him out in the league. A lot of people have figured him sit back and counter thing. A lot of people have figured Solskjaer out. And there's no reaction to that. The only reaction he wants to do now, let me even go back. Let me even double down and go back to what I was even doing earlier, which is what I did here. Like, I'm going to sit real deep and still counter more. So I was just like, I'm not sure. This is what I'm going to say. If we still have Solskjaer and we get to January and we don't reinforce adequately, like get like a DM or just add something different to that squad that makes us even more stronger. If we don't do that, I would say I don't think we'll make top 4.
The thing for me is that United, because with this manager and this recruitment team and the process, etc., they might go and buy another midfielder, but you won't play him. He'll still be playing Fred and McTominay. Like, that's what will happen. Like, you can see it. Like, you signed.
Still play Freddie McTominay. That sounds like some Bayesian cuisine, man. These guys have been calling it Freddie Mac since like a burger.
McFred will play. Like, he will pick them. If he gets under pressure, McFred starts the game. We know this. He's dropping Pogba for these guys. Like, so even if you sign someone, I'd even put it past him to say, okay, I've got the player that's gonna do X job for my team and unlock the system I want to play. Because I don't know if he knows what the system he wants to play is.
He doesn't. He really doesn't. Because the funny thing that's very funny to me is the fact that what he just said is actually true in the sense that he will stick to this 13 group of players for such a long time. You know what's going to happen? One person now gets an injury. All of a sudden, from the out of the dark and blues, here comes Van der Beek. That's not played for 13 games, 15 games. And I expect him to just turn it on. And United fans get on his back. You see why Van der Beek is not playing. Solskjaer is right. I'm just like, sometimes I pull my hair out when I hear those arguments. It's like, Did you guys play football? I didn't play football at all, even at your level, Idris. But just like very basic level.
Yeah, you can.
13 games. Somebody has not.
Especially in a team that lacks system. Like, you know what I mean? That lacks system. If there was a system, then the player can go in there and do one function. Even if they're not fit, they just know, like, maybe I'm supposed to press.
Yeah,
maybe I'm supposed to, like, just keep the pass.
Circle, I was supposed to stay this, but like, no,
Yeah.
that's vibes. Just
Vibes.
Vibes and chill. Vibes and chill. The man just there smiling and grinning on the sideline.
Someone says watching Netflix.
Like that came out is true. Like from Athletic, they're leaking reports. It's a vibes guy. The training sessions, it's vibes they're doing there. The only reason is because he's a nice guy. All the players like he doesn't rub their ego. You know, Ronaldo is not stupid. Ronaldo knows that a change of manager could mean iron bench. And the thing that people always forget when I tell people is like Ronaldo is an awesome, world-class, all-time great finisher. The finish is never going anywhere. He will still score the goals he scored, like against us. He will score. Ronaldo is a scorer, but everything else he takes away from every other player. But that's what we're not seeing. Like,
you don't
look at what's under the hood. I keep telling people, look what is under the hood.
Sorry, go ahead, Steven. No,
you don't downplay what Ronaldo is. You build your team to accommodate what he can do.
Correct.
You've got two of the best finishers historically at the moment in world football in that squad.
Yep.
I'm asking Cavani and Ronaldo to press and run around. Put Rashford one side, put Sancho the other. Let the youngsters do all of that running up and down, and just put them in the middle and let them score goals. Like that's.
But the issue is we've come to terms that it's just vibes, because like the only reason I'm going to like accept that, like, okay, Ronaldo might be a burden to the system is because the coach is stupid.
I agree.
The coach is stupid, because how can I have such finishes and I would see Ronaldo in the middle of the pitch? I'm doing something wrong. Like, I'm doing something wrong. He's supposed to be there. The ball has to be there. Like,
I said to Ayo from this last season, if United switch to a 3-4-3 with the squad and the players they have now, they would be a problem, which is why I'm saying if Conte comes there, I'm going to be worried because he's got the personnel to actually switch it and sign one player and get more out of the current squad of players that he's got there.
Well, he'll probably not even sign anybody. He
needs a midfielder. They need a DM.
You will find a way to work with Pogba and a hard tackling midfielder. There's a reason why I said that, because I've seen what he did at Chelsea. Right.
But what I'm saying, I think he would. He has, because it's United, and the fact that they could go. Okay, give you an example. If he wanted to go and get Tielemans, he would get Tielemans. Okay. Only thing that would stop him is the fact that Leicester will probably say, "I want 120 mil." Like that's the only thing. But this is the difference when you put him there, and the fact that he would know exactly what position he wants and the type of player he wants, and they have the means to be able to go. Here's the money. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Like United.
Yeah.
Weekly awards. Let's move on to weekly awards. Wrap up the show. Idris.
Weekly awards for. I don't have any donkey, other than I was gonna give Ole donkey, but Ole won. So I had to like skip. I would say for the culture. You know, remember we like for the culture. Crystal Palace, man. Patrick Vieira.
Okay, that's your kudos for the week.
Oh yeah, like we knew what the problem was.
Yeah,
like we talked about it. He's been tying, and it's always been like they've been burning out, and you know what's going on, man. But my goodness, he got that result against City. You know, and they play good football. Yeah. I was like, okay. So yeah, that's my kudos.
That's your kudos? Okay.
Yeah.
Steve, any kudos, any donkey?
I'm still gonna give the donkey to Ole because we're just buying time. And I'm not bad. I'm not sad about it. It's like I almost feel again. I remember earlier in the season as an Arsenal fan, when everybody got, "Oh man, I really feel sorry for you lot," you know. Like right now, that's how I feel for United. It's the same. It's just I look at it and I go, "This guy is just not gonna work out. We're just wasting time here."
Yeah.
So I just think he's buying time, and I'm still giving it to him, even though with the result, because I look at the team he picked, and I'm like, how can you pick this team? Like, with the group of players you have, this is the best you can do. I just don't get it. So I'm still giving that to him. And then I would go Patrick Vieira as well, but to go different, I'm gonna go Ramsdale for the reason that I kind of gave you. Just the personality of that guy, just the way he's showing up. Because yeah, most people with the amount of abuse he was getting, remember man had to turn off his Instagram like comments at one point because he got signed and people were abusing him.
Yeah.
And you go to the club and now they're singing your name and begging for your shirt and he's the best thing ever. Like people owe that man an apology daily.
Humans are fickle, man. Humans emotions are fickle. Humans are trash.
Yeah, I'm just happy for that kid, man, because he's come in and he's just taking it all and he's just kind of like putting his fingers up to people and go, all right, you love me now though. so yeah, he's the one for me.
Okay. My donkey is the whole United. Everything talk about the whole United management. No. United management. No, it's true.
The fact he's still
it's the whole United management, the coaching staff, the director of football, who's structure-wise, when you see the thing that came out, what's it called again? The org structure that came out. The director of football, that's why I have to do this. It's literally on the same level as Ole. So pretty much he cannot fire Ole. The best I can fire Ole is Edward Wood, or the next person who's replacing Edward Wood in December, Richard Arnold. So is that really the director of football?
Is that not the same? Is that not the same structure in Liverpool?
No.
Yes.
That is the same structure in Liverpool. That's the same structure, I believe, even in Leicester City.
Arsenal.
Arsenal too.
Everyone at the same level.
Oh wow, yeah. That's the same structure even in not in Chelsea though.
It's more of a technical director than it is a director of football.
No, I think in Liverpool, no, I don't think so though.
I
think Klopp trusts Michael Edwards though. I'm not sure.
I don't think he reports. I don't think he does.
Like I think Edwards can fire Klopp.
Well, I think he'd be the person, but he might be empowered to fire Klopp.
Yeah.
But he's not.
Because I agree with Steven for this, because when Lampard was fired, you have to understand Czech was not even director of football, right?
Yeah,
he was
Czech is technical director. Yes, always been.
He's technical director, but the position was more like technical something analyst. So he was on the same position because Emenalo was technical. Emenalo fires and helps hire coaches. So maybe now Czech will be in the technical director role, because that will be his first hire was Lampard, but they were kind of on the same part. But once he gets into the firing and hiring thing, you become the org structure changes.
Yeah, let's not even go to down the rabbit hole. The bottom line is the other structure. Any serious club fire Solskjaer after that Liverpool game, and not just because this is a one-off game. No, like for what we've seen for the last 6-7 months, plus the resources that has been spent, you pull the plug now, because it's all about asset protection at this point. You know, it's sunk cost. You have to think about that very quickly. Leave Daniel Levy, as terrible as it can be, one thing he does very quickly is protect sunk cost. You have to think about sunk cost very quickly. And Manchester United board, the reason why Solskjaer is the fact that they release all these briefings, and when you tie all the official briefings that they put out to the media, what they are pretty much saying without actually saying it is, we're not firing Solskjaer because we don't have a succession plan. I mean, for me, they get my donkey of the week. That's just the same thing that put us in this position, like Stephen rightly pointed out. No succession plan from Ferguson's time. The same thing we are still doing 9 years later.
So, and the scary part of it is, for all of the resources that United have, everybody else is progressing or moving, right? You get in this state, like you see this thing whole with West Ham, right? Yeah. So West Ham get this investor. Newcastle got an investor. Like those aren't going to come in a year, but 5 years from now, 7 years from now, you got 2-3 more cities in the league.
Right. Like, that's what happens then. Then we now become part of the struggling pack and join Arsenal. We need to get back in top 4. So that's kind of what we become with all this outlay and resources. It's just ridiculous. So they get my donkey of the week along with Kane plus Nuno. Kane, just because I feel like I don't really like giving. This is one thing I'm very pro players for a certain reason. If they don't disrespect themselves and be like brats and do something that like Neymar was doing at some point, I'm very pro players because I know no player wants to lose. Like player don't go out like, you know what, I want to lose because because it affects them, affects everything that they're about. But when I watch Kane now, I'm just like,
Again, it's a very easy
target. Like,
target.
yeah,
Like,
that's why I said. That's why I said.
Imagine mentally, right? Imagine mentally, you are a job, and you're at your job for 10 years, and you put in, and you're the employee of the year every year for 10 years.
Yeah.
Type thing. You're carrying everybody. And then you kind of go to the boss at one point, and you're not getting promoted there, and you go to the boss one day and say, you know what, boss, I want to try something else. And they basically throw it in your face that you can't go anywhere because you're under contracts, and you're gonna basically go back to your job the next day and just keep performing at the same level, when you can look around and you just know that the team isn't good enough.
Yeah.
Like you're basically the only guy in this team, and you're performing at this level, you're carrying everybody else, and you must continue to carry them when mentally you've already kind of checked out. So it's not, again, I don't feel sorry for Kane because he's the one that went and signed the 5-year contract when Levy put it in front of him. He should have literally not signed it. That was his fault.
That was stupid.
That was a stupid move on his part. He should fire his agent.
Yeah.
I know it's his family, but he should definitely be firing his agent.
I agree.
But then on the flip side, I look at that situation for him and I'm just like, that's where everything for Spurs, you had an opportunity to almost press reset. You got Son to sign, who for me is a better asset for where the club is going. And you could have reset. You could have gotten a decent amount of money in. You could have built and put a couple young players in that squad. And again, maybe you show right now, it might be easier to get a different manager in because there's less turmoil with the actual squad of players that they have left behind. So it's just a weird one. Like right now I'm going there and I'm like, I don't know if Kane wants to be here. Son might get poached from me in a year if he keeps up what he's doing because we might not be in Europe. And then what? If they lost Son and Kane from that squad,
they don't have a squad. They have nothing.
they're done. And that's the problem.
Okay, I take that back. So that Kane is not my donkey of the week. Nuno didn't hire himself, so this is who Nuno is. So I'm not going to give you donkey of the week. My second donkey of probably United hierarchy on board is Norwich. Yeah, Norwich. I know people have explained to me financially that it's good turnover every 2 years. They get 150 million.
But then they should get banned. They should get that means they're not. There's no fair. What's it called? A fair play in that.
Yeah.
But Norwich,
no fair play in that. Are you coming to compete or are you just taking up spot?
No, but Norwich aren't again. Norwich have earned their place in the league, whether we like it or not.
Yeah,
they come up from the Championship. They earn their place in the league. Norwich know that financially, it doesn't matter how much they spend, they're going to be a bottom half of the table team, right? And even if they come up and they spend all 150 million they get, and they probably try to spend the money. Let's not get it twisted because they spend a little bit of money too. They're just not. They're not big enough club to attract certain types of players. They're going to have to get very lucky where they do like a Brighton and they pick up young players and they like what Crystal Palace have just done. They come up from the Championship and they raid the Championship. That's what Crystal Palace have started to do, like Olise and people like that. That's what Norwich would need to do to be able to be even competitive. They're just never going to be that team. They're not good enough.
Yeah. I agree. I also think why they have to keep donkeys, like they have to decide regarding their manager, right? That's too good. He's too good for the Championship, but not good enough for the Premiership. Like it's kind of they're in a limbo every time. Like,
but they know what they are. They know what they are. It's like them and West Brom. They're gonna play tag. Like we know what's gonna happen. West Brom go down, Norwich come up. Norwich go down, West Brom come up. Like
that's to the category. Oh yeah, they still get my donkey. I'm insisting on that one. They get my donkey.
It looks like Steven has uncovered a racket right here. Actually, it's like Norwich,
like a racket.
What would actually be funny is if Newcastle were to go down this season.
That's a good one. We're going to talk about that in another episode for sure. We've come to the end of the show. It took longer than I thought, but hey, it was a fun show. It was a good one. Steve, thanks for coming. All people that joined in the comments, thank you for coming. Please like, share, subscribe. All our content, YouTube especially. We are. Join us the next one. We're out.
See ya.